There you go. So, why don't you introduce yourself?
Well, I am Brian Cooper. I live in North County, San Diego, San Marcos, California. And let's see, I was in the Navy for 4 years. I used to work for Thrasher Magazine. I worked on the border, was a customs agent, and I've done everything else in between.
Cool. So what are you doing tonight?
I am here at the caucus, the Iowa Caucus results. And it's a group of people here who are true libertarians or liberty-infused people. And we're here checking out, what's happening there on that.
All right. So Ron Paul got third. How do you feel about those results?
Pretty good. And in fact, Iowa is an important part, but it's just a small part of the whole picture of what's going to come. So, there's quite a few more coming up here, and New Hampshire's next, and we'll see what happens.
Okay.
Yeah.
What draws you to Dr. Paul?
Dr. Paul, oh boy. Most people don't go as deep as I do, and here's what I mean by deep. Deep is looking at our history that you will never find in our history books. For instance, the Act of 1871, where, we were broke as a country because we'd just gone through the Civil War, and so the problem was we were broke, totally broke, and the 41st Congress needed money badly, and so they had an open door policy, and guess who stepped in? The international bankers. So the international bankers went ahead and they took advantage of that, and they said, we will loan you the money, but what do you guys have? Well, they had people, the work of the people, and they had the land. So that was the collateral. So when you look at that whole scenario, and I'm not going to give all the facts, it would take too long, but with that, we lost a lot of our sovereignty as a country. So when you understand that whole situation, they literally changed the Constitution. It would take me too long to explain all the ins and outs of that, but when you look at how we've lost our sovereignty, how the 41st Congress sold us out, you have to understand where everything is. And if you understand that Congress, Senate, and all the branches, basically, they don't work for you anymore. They work for the international bankers. Once you understand that, then you can understand why it is that these guys, when you want them to do things, you tend not to get the greatest results.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So with Dr. Paul, he got into politics because he had a lot of kids. He saw that the Constitution was being dragged through the dirt, and when people took their oaths of office, they said it, but they really didn't follow it or mean it. So that's a problem. And so he saw that. He went ahead and got involved and became a congressman and wanted to truly make a difference. He was from his gut, that's what he wanted to do. It wasn't about power like most of the politicians and the advantages that some of those do take, as in with the lobbyists and all that kind of stuff. No, it wasn't that way for Paul. And Paul has a record like you just wouldn't believe. I mean, my God, it's just incredible. He does not take any paid junkets. And a junket is an allotment of money that congressmen and other politicians will get. And, Dr. Paul doesn't believe that that's really, truly his money. He gives it back to the treasury every year. The record stands alone with Dr. Paul, and people just don't see that. They don't know it because they don't investigate it.
Right.
Now, did I answer your question?
You did. And
Okay.
one last question here.
Okay.
If you could ask Ron Paul anything, what would you ask him?
What would I ask him? Ooh, that's a good question. Dr. Paul, what would I ask him? Boy. I don't know what I would ask him. Because the thing is, he's not controversial in my mind. Well, okay, let me say it this way. People their biggest hang-up, or I should say the people who don't understand him well enough, their biggest hang-up with Dr. Paul is his foreign policy. Foreign policy, if you look at it now, it's so unconstitutional, it's ridiculous.
Right.
And so, what does Obama or Bush do? They go to the UN to, with all their, the buddies who own the gold, the people who are way up, above the security advisors of the country, and, who have their lobbyists come in and influence Congress, all the bankers, all that kind of stuff. I would ask him, how, if he does become president, is he going to triple his security force?
Gotcha.
That's the question I would ask,
Gotcha.
because I'll tell you, he will be a target. Okay, whether you believe in, Kennedy or,
Lincoln,
some of the politicians who have been assassinated, and I hope to God that never happens to Dr. Paul. I honestly believe he would be a big target, because what he's doing is totally changing the status quo.
Cool. Thanks, Brian.
Yeah. Awesome.
Nice.
Yeah.